Fox 45 News demanding answers after a 14-year-old girl is shot and a juvenile boy is arrested. What we know about this latest example of juvenile crime.
You have to let the citizens know where the money's being spent.
Former Mayor Sheila Dixon raising red flags about the Safe Streets program, what has her concerned, and what she says needs to happen to ensure transparency. And still ahead, a steam pipe explosion sends 3 to the hospital. What led up to it? And the area you're going to need to avoid.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala. Baltimore City has seen a rise in young victims and suspects involved in violent crime. The latest example of juvenile violence involves both. Police say a juvenile is in custody right now in connection with the shooting of a 14-year-old girl in Baltimore's Druid Heights neighborhood this afternoon. Police are not releasing many details about the suspect, including his age. Now, that boy joining the 75 other young people arrested for capital crimes in Baltimore City. The Baltimore Police Department saying shootings involving young people are up more than 50% this year compared to last. Fox 45's Vincent Hill joins us with a look at those numbers and this latest incident. Vincent.
Yeah, Mary, shootings up 50%, homicides up 60%, and no end in sight of juveniles getting their hands on guns, according to Baltimore police.
A seemingly quiet afternoon in the 1900 block of McCullough Street, quickly turning into chaos.
And next thing I know, I heard something say boom, and it all went from there.
Inside a home, a 14-year-old girl shot, the latest teen females shot within a week, and the latest Baltimore teen to fall victim to the city's gun violence. The suspected shooter, a male juvenile. So far this year, over 30 juveniles have been non-fatally shot in Baltimore.
Today, it's the same thing today.
Today's shooting, a stark reminder for Candace, who lives just across the street, about her 16-year-old granddaughter shot and killed in 2016.
He just walked up and shot her with a .22 in her chest.
Candace, fed up with city leaders who can't seem to get a handle on guns in juvenile hands.
That's the biggest thing that is really we've struggled with as a city is a lot of young men and women are being shot in their streets.
Deputy Commissioner Richard Worley acknowledging the teen gun crisis this week at City Hall.
Unfortunately, a lot of young people are ending up with guns in their hands.
Like the 17-year-old, police say was armed with a gun before being shot by police on Thursday. According to BPD data, juvenile homicides are up 67%, while non-fatal shootings are up 55% for the year. Worley blaming part of the problem on ghost guns.
Those are just ordered a gun online, find a couple tools and put the gun together. You got a fully operational.
This year, 17 juveniles have been arrested with ghost guns. 11 of them were 15 years old. 3 were just 13 years old.
And right now, we don't know what type of gun was used in today's shooting. That victim was taken to a local hospital. Her condition right now is unknown. For now, we're live at BPD headquarters. Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
Vincent, thank you. Well, this case, a reminder of the shooting death of 15-year-old Nikayla Strotter last summer. Police say a 9-year-old boy shot and killed her outside her home. Authorities called the shooting an accident, but Strotter's family has maintained that isn't the case. That boy could not be charged because of Maryland's juvenile justice law, preventing children 10 years old and younger for being charged with any crime. The Strotter family calling on lawmakers to change that law.
The city of Baltimore needs to state that this is a bad bill and get it fixed.
Despite calls to amend the law, State Senator Jill Carter, who sponsored the bill, stands by it. Lawmakers didn't do anything to change it during this year's legislative session. Now, the grandmother of the boy accused of shooting Nikayla is facing charges in connection with the incident, including failing to secure a firearm with an unsupervised minor. City State's Attorney Ivan Bates tells Fox 45 News he believes more needs to be done to hold both juvenile offenders and their guardians accountable.
I believe last year's legislative session, I think the Juvenile Justice Act, if I'm not mistaken, and that took a lot of the ability for state's attorneys to actually decide the charging of some of these offenses. And that's been kind of difficult in trying to deal with that. In many ways, when I talk to my juvenile prosecutors, they feel their hands are almost tied. But I also want to understand where the parents. So we need to try to figure out what laws can we put in place to try to hold the parents accountable.
Well, Governor Wes Moore has signed hundreds of bills into law this year. None of them, though, deal with the juvenile crime crisis. In Baltimore City, Mayor Scott trying to curb juvenile crime by enforcing the youth curfew starting Memorial Day weekend. The mayor has been tight-lipped about how that curfew will be enforced. Fox 45 News has heard from a few law enforcement experts who say they don't think the curfew will solve the problem.
I like gun-free zones. Who reads the gun-free zone signs and says, I'll put my legal gun away? Legal gun owners. So people who are likely to commit crimes are not likely to pay attention to curfews.
But I don't expect it to have much of an impact at all. In fact, it could have a negative impact.
It's not the solution. It's a tool in the toolbox.
Brings us to our question of the day. Do you think there should be a special legislative session in Annapolis to tackle the juvenile crime crisis? So far, 97% of voters say yes. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote and click on the Pulse tab to weigh in. Well, questions surrounding the effectiveness and hiring practices of the Safe Streets program remain unanswered. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost spoke with the former city leader who brought the gun violence prevention program to Baltimore more than a decade ago.
When Sheila Dixon brought Safe Streets to Baltimore while at the helm of city government, there were 2 locations.
I thought that was a great idea to really look at assisting individuals who were part of that culture to be able to go into the community and talk with individuals.
Now there are 10 scattered all over the city. After threatening to sue over details of the contracts between the city of Baltimore and nonprofits running Safe Streets, Fox 45 News finally getting the information. But it's still unclear how the nonprofits spend the cash once the city signs off on the checks. Do you think that there should be more transparency in how the city is handing out this funding, and then also how the nonprofits are spending that money?
Well, because of experiencing not being transparent in the past and learning a lesson, I believe when you talk about taxpayers' dollars, if it's coming from the federal government, from the state government, or local, we have to let the citizens know where the money's being spent, how it's being spent, and what the results are, and how effective is our tax dollars being spent.
The results, according to Mayor Brandon Scott and his team, are in this Johns Hopkins report, noting some decreases in gun violence in a few Safe Street zones. Dr. Daniel Webster, the Hopkins professor penning the study, telling Fox 45 News, quote, Monzi has made progress on several fronts. However, we don't have enough specific data yet to attribute such changes to better program outcomes. The city also not mentioning the funding for the study came directly from Monzi. Dixon raising concerns about the study in the first place.
Well, I wouldn't have paid Hopkins to do a study.
Calling for an independent review.
I think having something independent done, just like an audit.
Right.
And maybe it's time to have an audit.
Despite the push for transparency and accountability, Mayor Brandon Scott not backing down from the program, rather doubling down on it, announcing another $5 million investment in April.
He will invest ARPA dollars in Safe Streets administration.
Dixon says sometimes leaders can see their big programs with blinders on.
Sometimes when you tout different initiatives, you don't want to see them fail.
Sure.
And sometimes you have to come to the reality to say, hey, this is not working the way that we thought it was. Let's back off and let's reassess and maybe do something different.
With Baltimore's crime crisis continuing and persistent problems, is Baltimore broken?
I think Baltimore is, I always believe, a glass being half full. And I don't think Baltimore is broken, but I think we have a lot of challenges that we should be beyond now.
One of the challenges seems to always come back to a lack of accountability and transparency from leaders inside City Hall. Dixon says the Safe Streets program as a whole should be paused and reevaluated to ensure that the people who are hired to work at these locations are actually there to help the communities and really give a top-to-bottom review of the overall effectiveness moving forward. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Well, you heard former Mayor Dixon say she believes the Safe Streets program should be audited. A 2018 document outlining requirements for Safe Streets shows a monthly requirement of reports and audits. Fox 45 News filed a public records request asking to see those audits last year, but we were told the mayor's office of neighborhood safety and engagement didn't have any records matching our request for the monthly audit reports. Monzi is not one of the city agencies subject to audits. City Comptroller Bill Henry promised to expand the city's audit system when he was on the campaign trail back in 2020, but that has not happened yet. Councilman Yitzi Schleifer is trying to bring more transparency to how nonprofits spend taxpayer dollars. He introduced a new bill that would require those groups to report where the money goes. You can find more on that bill on our website, foxbaltimore.com. Well, a group of 36 Maryland Republican lawmakers are urging Governor Wes Moore to veto Senate Bill 1, which would limit where people with a wear and carry permit could bring their firearms. The governor is expected to sign that bill into law on Tuesday. In a letter sent to the governor Friday, Republicans argue the bill is unconstitutional. One legal expert Fox 45 News spoke with agrees.
If you're a faithful, law-abiding citizen, you are guaranteed by our Constitution the Second Amendment right to bear arms.
Am I going to get some completely innocent client that has a permit to carry, that isn't sure where they can possess, and they walk in the wrong place on the wrong day unintentionally, and they end up being prosecuted in court? That's the big concern here.
Governor Wes Moore has not responded to that letter. Supporters of the bill say having less guns in public places will make communities safer. Well, stay with Fox 45 News. We're going to continue to follow the developments surrounding Senate Bill 1. We'll keep you updated both on air and online. A pipe explosion in downtown Baltimore has some busy roads closed. What happened and what you need to know before your morning commute. A lawsuit against Baltimore City over recycling is moving forward. What the next steps are and how it could impact your recycling pickup.
And what a fabulous Mother's Day with high temperatures up to about 78 degrees this afternoon. And guess what? We do it all again tomorrow after a cool start, back well into the 70s for back to work, back to school. I'm going to let you know when the next chance of rain rolls in this week, though, and if it could also threaten Preakness on Saturday. That's in my Weather Authority forecast.
Four construction workers are hurt after a steam pipe explosion in a busy part of downtown Baltimore. Three of them taken to the hospital with injuries. They are, though, expected to be okay. Happened around 6:30 tonight at West Pratt and South Utah Streets, right in front of the Hilton and Marriott hotels near Camden Yards. The fire department says crews from DPW and BGE were working on a water main break when the explosion happened, but the cause is still under investigation. The roads around the explosion are closed, including parts of Pratt and Utah Streets. You can find more on these road closures on our website. Whether they'll be there in the morning, probably foxbaltimore.com. Another issue when it comes to DPW, recycling. A judge recently granting a few small victories to a group of citizens' lawsuit against the city of Baltimore over inconsistent recycling pickup. Fox 45's Taylor Stewart has the latest.
The plaintiffs in this suit call this a legal victory, but they're still confused as to why they have to sue the city to get their trash picked up.
But that's exactly what hundreds of Baltimore residents and business owners are doing. This weekend, they're celebrating a small legal victory after a Baltimore Circuit Court judge shot down two motions filed by the city. The first to dismiss the lawsuit altogether, the second to delay the court hearing until September. Desmond Stinney is the lead plaintiff on two lawsuits that have garnered over 200 signatures. He's asking a judge to compel DPW to resume normal trash pickup and stop funding the mayor's $15 million Clean Core initiative.
The $15 million that's allocated to that program is detrimental to us getting the weekly recycling back on track. So I think right now full focus and resources should be on getting weekly recycling back. So that case is also being heard the same day on May 26th.
It comes just over a month after Mayor Brandon Scott proposed a 40% increase to DPW's $630 million budget, leaving Stinney to question, where's all that money going?
That's exactly the reason for the lawsuit, is we don't know really what the reasons are, and the administration hasn't been very forthcoming with good reasons as to why weekly recycling hasn't been resumed.
Baltimore, you have my word. We will return to weekly recycling.
That vow made by Mayor Scott at the State of the City address last month, but the timeline for that likely another year. Stinney says that's not good enough as he gears up for a hearing that he hopes will help city residents get to the bottom of why taxpayer dollars aren't funding the very thing taxpayers want.
This case is a last resort. I think everyone has tried to get these answers out of the administration. What we're hoping is that, the judge sides with the people on the May 26th and gives us an opportunity to go into discovery so that we can ask these questions and request the documents and actually get them unredacted so that we can see, where the budget is going.
Taylor Stewart, Fox 45 News.
Happening tomorrow, Baltimore County Executive Johnny Olszewski will make an announcement about his plans when it comes to the U.S. Senate. Senator Ben Cardin recently announced he will not run for re-election, and some have speculated that Olszewski will run for the seat. Prince George's County Executive Angela Alsobrooks announced her run for Senate last week. Other candidates include Montgomery County Council member Will Jawando and Representative David Trone and Jerome Segal. We'll stay with Fox 45 News. We'll have complete coverage of the county executive's announcement both on air and online. After 2 rain delays, Jake's Day finally happened at Jake's Skate Park in Baltimore's Rashfield Park. Both the event and the park were named after a Locust Point boy who was killed in a car accident. Organizers, including local professional skateboarder Joey Jett, say Jake's Day is all about honoring Jake's memory and encouraging kids to try skateboarding.
Bring kids out here to just have fun and give them that smile and give them that place to go that's just safe and it's welcoming. With skateboarding, you have to fall, but you have to get back up. So it's a great teacher of just life in general.
Oh, looks like a great day out there. Today's event also featured ice cream, goats, and free T-shirts for moms for Mother's Day. Such beautiful weather out there.
Yeah, and of course, a happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there, including my wife, Dawn. And you can see here 68 right now, clear skies, winds out of the north at 7 miles an hour, humidity 31%, and dew points low at 36 degrees. So a low measure of moisture in the air equals comfort. We're going to wrap up this Mother's Day just like we started it. Absolutely perfect. Highs today up to 78 degrees under those clear, well, now moonlit skies, but they were sunny skies all day long today. And I think we're going to do it again for tomorrow. Another good day for an outdoor lunch. 68 degrees here in Baltimore right now, 61 at Bel Air, 64 at Westminster. Temperatures in the 60s, with a couple of upper 50s on the eastern shore, getting up to 78 in Baltimore today. So about 2-3 degrees above average, 75 at Bel Air, 76 Gaithersburg, nearly 80 at Frederick. And it looks like the HG radar has not a whole lot to show until actually you get way up here. Areas north of us into the northern tier of Pennsylvania along the New York line. Yes, there are frost advisories. This air warms up during the day and it's kind of desertified, very dry, really cooling down during the overnight hours here in Baltimore. Not going to be that chilly, but it will be crisp by tomorrow morning. And then notice this rain, even some thunderstorms out to our west. That's something to watch by Tuesday. Latest weather maker, a cold front moving well down to our south, giving us a dry, nice weather. Sunshine continues tomorrow, but there's the wetness that could impact us by later Tuesday. So the future scan overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning. There's that jacket weather at 6 a.m. Temperatures in the 40s. Dropping down through the 40s and 50s for most of us all through the early morning hours. So you will need a jacket likely to start and some sunglasses. Then during the day tomorrow, we do it all over again. Noontime, 2:30, sunshine, mid to upper 70s. Loving that forecast. Then unfortunately Tuesday may fall apart a little bit. 48, mix of clouds and stars tonight. 76, gorgeous day for short sleeves. Tomorrow, sunglasses out, bright, beautiful. Tuesday, some showers during the PM hours into the evening. I think it clears out Wednesday with a cool down near 70 for both Wednesday and Thursday. 74 on Friday for Black-Eyed Susan Day. Now looks dry, but Preakness could have some impacts from some showers, maybe during post time, which is right around 6, 7 o'clock in the evening with highs around 77. So some rain to watch there by Saturday.
Jonathan, thank you. Well, Mother's Day, beautiful today, though, but it's coming to a close. Still ahead, a look at some of your tributes to Mom. And right after the break, new numbers of migrant encounters. Now that Title 42 has been lifted, we'll take a look at 2 of the biggest challenges officials are up against. Well, Well, migrants are facing tougher Biden administration asylum policies, but their claims are no longer blocked by Title 42. The administration says Border Patrol has seen a 50% drop in the number of encounters compared to earlier in the week before Title 42 was lifted. But as national correspondent Atra El-Nashar reports, officials at the border are preparing for conditions to get worse.
Migrants waiting to be processed outside this Customs and Border Patrol building in El Paso, Texas. It's a scene playing out in towns across the U.S.-Mexico border. The mayor of Laredo, Texas, worried about the strain on community resources, especially hospitals.
We have not been overwhelmed at this point. We're still at high alert. And until we see the numbers at the Border Patrol custody centers go down, this is when we can say the episode had passed.
DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas says it's too early to tell if border encounters have peaked, but so far there's been a sharp decline.
We have seen, I think, approximately 6,300 on Friday and about 4,200 yesterday,
compared to 10,000 before the end of Title 42. Mayorkas credits their messaging to migrants, warning about the consequences of illegal entry, including a 5-year ban on re-entry. Fewer encounters, but just last week, Border Patrol reported more than 15,700 gotaways, people seen crossing illegally but haven't been apprehended or turned back. Between fiscal years 2019 and 2022, there was a 303% increase in gotaways. In 2022 alone, CBP recorded more than 600,000. For those going through the legal asylum process, it can be years of limbo, waiting just for a court date. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton now suing the Biden administration to stop a policy that allows migrants to be paroled before they have a court date.
Political asylum's been abused by the cartels, and when they get into the United States, whether they have legitimate claims or not, they're released into our society.
All agree there's an urgent need for comprehensive reform, entering a new era without Title 42. Partisan gridlock getting in the way of Washington fixing a broken system. On Capitol Hill, I'm Atra El-Nashar reporting.
As the 2024 election gets closer, polls show some Americans still don't trust the election process. A closer look at the concerns in tonight's Full Measure report. As the 2024 election starts to take shape, polls show some Americans still don't trust the election process. This despite numerous reports showing no evidence of widespread election fraud in the 2020 presidential election. Tonight, Full Measure Shell Atkinson looks at isolated cases of election issues.
The first category of voting issues, election processes that could open the door to fraud. Numerous court actions and audits call into question systems used to cast millions of ballots in the 2020 election. In Wisconsin, Absentee ballot drop boxes used in 2020 were illegally approved by the Elections Commission, according to the state Supreme Court. Had that ruling come before the election, it could have had a big impact. 200,000 drop box ballots skipped normal voter ID requirements in a state Biden won by just 20,600 votes. Our second category of voting issues involves alleged election mistakes. In Georgia's close election, numerous anomalies surfaced during forced recounts. In both Fayette and Floyd counties, Donald Trump was shorted 1,200 votes on memory cards that somehow weren't counted on Election Day. In Michigan, Shiawassee County added 100,000 votes for Biden on election night that he didn't actually get. Observers flagged the error and the tally was corrected. Our third category of voting issues is outright alleged fraud. But before we get to 2020, a documented case showing how election results can be manipulated live. The case was prosecuted in Philadelphia last year. Ex-Congressman Ozzie Myers, a Democrat, led a major vote fraud ring that operated in 5 elections leading up to 2020. He bribed election judges. They would report to him on Election Day how many legit votes were being cast in real time to calculate how many fraudulent votes should be added for the preferred candidates. The corrupt election judges would later attest to the accuracy of the machine results and certify the final fake counts. Friends Gary Snyder and David Lara say neither Democrat nor Republican leaders cared to unearth long-standing voter fraud in their hometown of San Luis, Arizona. Early on primary election day in 2020, they decided to set up and record video outside a polling place. They caught school board member and former mayor Guillermina Fuentes in action.
And just lady walked up, had a ballot in her hand. Guillermina Fuentes received her ballot, opened it up, wrote on it, deciding who they're going to vote for, signed the name, and closed it.
Snyder and Lara reported what they saw to law enforcement and handed over the video. After a lengthy investigation, Fuentes and 3 other women were arrested. As for the ex-Congressman Ozzie Myers, who was convicted in the Philadelphia ring that changed votes in 5 elections, he got just 2.5 years in prison, even though he was a repeat offender. He'd been kicked out of Congress back in 1980 and served time in prison in the bribery scandal known as Abscam. For Full Measure, I'm Cheryl Atkinson.
And you can watch Full Measure Sundays on Fox 45 at 10 a.m. Well, the O's dropped their series finale with the Pirates, but take 2 of 3 at home. The Sunday struggles at Camden Yards coming up next in Sports Unlimited. Well, Mother's Day is coming to an end, and we've been getting a lot of pictures from many of you celebrating the moms in your life. Dawn sent us this picture of her Mother's Day celebration last night. Looks like these ladies had a beautiful time and got some flowers. Beautiful day. And this picture from Karen wishing her mother a very happy Mother's Day. So lovely, ladies. Looks like you may be in church. Well, that's all. The news at 10. I'm Mary Bubala. Thank you so much for watching. Morgan Atzett and Rocco DeSangro join us now with Sports Unlimited. Morgan and Rocco.
Mary, happy Mother's Day. Thanks. Coming up tonight on Sports Unlimited. At first, there were 5 locals in the NCAA tournament for men's and women's lacrosse.
Now only 2 remain as Maryland in unfamiliar territory. Championship hopes for the Terps crumble for both lacrosse teams.
Johns Hopkins men are on to the next. The historic performance by the Blue Jays on their final game at Homewood Field in 2023.
In the series finale with the Pirates, Kyle Gibson drops his 3rd straight start. Plus, we'll preview Monday's pitching matchup. It's one of baseball's best.
And 2 contenders for this Saturday's Preakness 148 have arrived at Old Hilltop. The new shooter joining Kentucky Derby winner Mage in the middle jewel of the Triple Crown. Ahead on Sports Unlimited.
She raising 4 kids on her own, not asking for a handout, not reaching out to people like oh, I need this right here to pay my bills. I never heard her complain about anything like that. I just seen her go to work, wake up early in the morning, go to work, come back late at night from working, or I'm dropping her off to work, stuff like that. It was like, man, this woman's a superhero.
Well said by Lamar Jackson. Welcome into Sports Unlimited. I'm Rocco DeSangro. Happy Mother's Day to all those superhero moms out there, on my own, and including you, Morgan Atzett, as well.
Thank you so much, Rocco. Yes, Linda, your mother. Happy Mother's Day. My mom, Gail, and all those moms out there. Happy Mother's Day. The Preakness favorite has arrived. The Orioles can't get the sweep, but first, the NCAA lacrosse tournament is in full swing, and that's where Johns Hopkins finds itself for the first time in 4 years.